So for me, inclusive practice is all about making sure that everybody has equal opportunities to succeed, independent of their background, their demographic characteristics, their current personal circumstances. It's about levelling the playing field and making sure that everybody's got the same opportunities. My particular area of interest is awarding gaps. So those are inequalities in which students graduate with a first or 2-1, which is counted as a good degree in the UK. So we know that nationally and institutionally, there are some groups of students who are less likely to graduate with that good degree than others. So nationally, the biggest awarding gap is along ethnicity lines. So Black and Asian students are less likely to graduate with that first or 2-1. At the University of Hull, we have an ethnicity awarding gap, but we also have awarding gaps for mature students, for students from educationally disadvantaged areas or low areas of participation in higher education, and for disabled students. So I'm interested in inclusivity generally, but that's specifically how that manifests in terms of these awarding gaps. So, what we ideally want to have is that everybody has an equal chance of getting a first or a 2-1. So my work is all about addressing those kind of systematic inequalities in who's graduating with a good degree. So to address awarding gaps, I've mostly taken this from the view of structures and processes, so that making sure that the routine work of the university is supporting us to meet our awarding gaps. So we have awarding gap targets that are established as key performance indicators in the education strategy. So those have been disseminated across the university. Those are agreed in our institutional access and participation plan with the Office for Students. So they're actually publicly available, those targets. What the work I've been doing is a lot of getting the right data to the right people in the right format, so developing interactive dashboards of awarding gaps at subject level for the different demographic groups has been a big part of my work. Communicating with programme teams, with associate deans, with quality officers about what these awarding gaps are, what they mean, why it's important to tackle them, and then to work with programme teams to help understand their data, to understand what their issues might be, and to work with them to start to address awarding gaps through some of the other sorts of things that are in the inclusive education framework. So the data can tell you what the awarding gap is, but to do something about it you have to take action. So actions might be, for example, looking at marking criteria. Are those as fair and as transparent as they might be? Looking at assessment design, looking at personal supervision and how different students are supported within the system. So all of that activity is kind of, there's some central university activity, but then it's applied to programmes in different areas, and how different areas might address their awarding gaps might look quite different, depending on the discipline or their particular circumstances. But a lot of my work has been about creating tools, advice, data, resources to help address those awarding gaps. So the impact that this will have on students, well, it's still relatively early days with the awarding gap stuff. We're just getting that going at university level, but hopefully we'll start to see, with looking at our data of who graduates with first and 2-1, we'll start to see those gaps closed. Under the pandemic, we made some progress actually in terms of closing awarding gaps, so particularly disabled students and mature students and students from educationally disadvantaged areas, their awarding gaps closed, but we did have an increase in our ethnicity awarding gap, so we haven't completely solved it by any stretch of the imagination. It's an ongoing process, but it's going to be a very active programme of work for the university, using the data, using resources, using the toolkit, using the framework to then make the most appropriate interventions for programme teams on the ground to hopefully close that gap. And then, what that means for students is, if we think about individual students, we know that a first or 2-1 is often the passport to a higher paying job, a more prestigious job, postgraduate study. So having a first or 2-1 opens doors. So although a lot of my work is, university metrics and data, what I'm really focused on is making sure that individual students are able to graduate with the degree class that represents their full potential and abilities. So we're removing any structural barriers that they might be. So individual students can go out with a degree mark they're really proud of, that opens doors, that unlocks their future.